Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. The dust has settled from Monday's derby, but the controversy, that never settles, does it? We have to talk about one of the big situations that follows on from Monday's game, and that is the VAR handling. Celtic are set for talks with the SFA. We're going to talk about it all in this video. The paranoia has apparently set in. Yes, one side of the city is paranoid. Apparently us. If you haven't already, make sure to hit like and subscribe. Happy New Year. I don't know if you caught me saying it to you after the derby game. It was a bit hectic. We had a lot to talk about, and that was the least of my concerns. So Happy New Year, everybody. We took the day off yesterday, but back on the channel today to talk about all of this, following a very bizarre derby, to say the least. One that Celtic didn't win, but we remain 9 points clear, which is the main thing. We could have been better. Probably could have been worse. It's one that I think we'll probably forget about quite quickly. It's just one of those kind of middle ground derbies, like, you know, it's not got too much to remember it by, but it does have its flashpoints, and one of those flashpoints has sparked this conversation that we're going to have today, and that's about Celtic meeting up with the SFA to discuss the handling of VAR, something that has to be done. And I'm going to give all my opinion, all my honest opinion in this video, a lot of it not surprising. A lot of it I've already said before, but we're going to try and do all of that. We'll talk about another couple of stories at the end. But this all spawns from that decision on Monday not to award Celtic a penalty after Connor Goldson's handball. Here's just a reminder of the handball on screen for you. This here, which apparently wasn't a penalty. Apparently wasn't a penalty. Let me just get one thing clear. And let me talk about something openly and honestly. I don't think that aside from that decision, the refereeing was that bad. In terms of derby standards, from what we've seen in plenty of derbies, and Christ, even plenty of Celtic games this season, probably not some of the worst refereeing I've ever seen. But this creates a massive talking point, and that throws everything out the window. Because that's a terrible decision, and the way that the decision was went about was shocking. Borderline shocking. You know, it was inexcusable, to say the least. When you have something like that happening and you've got a system there with video assistance to go and give you the best help, the best input, and the best advice to move forward, and you don't even use it, it has to raise some questions, and that's became the talking point. So despite there being maybe some good decisions in the game, and maybe being a couple of bad decisions in the game, this one decision is now the talking point, and that becomes the sole focus of everything referee orientated in that game. VAR should not be in place if the referee is going to use it as a get out of jail card. The referee should be making the final decision every time. Be it a handball, be it a red card, be it an offside, the referee should be making the final decision. No one in a room should be making it for him if it is that hard to tell. He should be going over to the screen to look at it. He doesn't even bother. He doesn't even flinch. He doesn't even think about it. Despite Celtic players suggesting, maybe you should go to your screen, he waves it away as if it's nothing. If he goes and checks that screen, I have no doubt, well, actually, not going to lie, knowing our referees, they would say it's not a penalty. But I have no doubt in my mind that he would have changed his mind, because there's no excusing, you know, there's no excusing it. He has to, surely. But the people in the room have advised him, oh, no, you're fine, you're fine. But how? Surely the referee has got to have a decision over that, and that has sparked everything in regards to these talks, which we're going to speak about in a moment. You know, for example, I don't feel hard done by it that Celtic lost a penalty in the game. I know it's still been up for debate. A lot of Celtic fans still claiming it's not a penalty, the Starfelt challenge. It is a penalty. You can say whatever you like about the contact, or, you know, the way that his foot connects with his foot, or anything else. He dives in, he gives the referee a fairly easy decision to make. He doesn't have to dive in so stupidly. It was a penalty, and that's that. I can accept that. I'm not going to argue that. A lot of people still are. You're entitled to your own opinion, but it's definitely 100% a Stonewall penalty. We give it away. However, there was no doubt in the referee's mind that was that, and then it comes to us, and, you know, you see how we've been treated, and not for the first time this season. So let's talk about what's happening. So the Daily Record reported in their article that they understand Parkhead Chiefs are looking for talks with Hampden officials for clarification regarding the ongoing issues surrounding the video assistant referee process. Celtic are unhappy at a number of calls since the setup was brought in before the World Cup, with the latest incident at Ibrox causing more angst. The Hoops were incensed at VAR decisions that went against them in clashes against Hearts, Ross County and Dundee United, and in the Derby showdown they were convinced ref John Beaton should have been instructed to take another look at the ball who appeared to strike Goldson's hand in the box at the 2-2 draw. The rulebook does allow players to get off the hook if they make themselves bigger in a reflex action to protect their face. Right, okay, so I don't want to talk too much about the whole, reflex and blah blah blah. That's not the point that we're trying to come to the conclusion here. Even though he's playing fucking volleyball, it's a Stonewall penalty. It would be given away. We've seen it given away many times, including when Celtic are involved. We've had to give away penalties in that situation. I don't know why suddenly it's allowed for Connor Goldson. Anyway, not the point that we're trying to come to here. So Celtic have asked to speak to the SFA about the process that has been kind of put forward for VAR here in this situation, and then just in general for a few games which have seen Celtic lose out on big decisions. Now, this has brought up claims of paranoia, of us playing the victim, etc, etc. I have always had this channel and tried my best to avoid being a conspiracy theorist and complaining about refs and using excuses, because it just doesn't get you anywhere. And at the end of the day, Celtic are more than good enough to get where they are without losing out big decisions to referees. However, since the introduction of VAR, Celtic have been constantly refereed in different lights. And I agree with it. I do. I'm not going to sit here and pretend it's not happening, because it is, and we will get called paranoid. We will get called victims by fans of other clubs, be it Rangers, Hearts, Ross County, whoever. But the proof is in the pudding, and you only need to look at all the incidents that have piled up since the introduction of VAR to see the difference between how Celtic have been refereed and how other clubs have been refereed. That one might be the worst because he doesn't even go to the screen to look at it. But this isn't a new trend. It's not from that game. It's not a derby that has sparked all of this. No, this has been a recurring thing since VAR has actually came into place. Let's just talk about a couple of them for a moment. The first game against Hearts was just shambolic. There was a couple of instances in that game that were questionable. Obviously there was penalty claims and such. Celtic, I thought, were refereed in a different light to how Hearts were. We had Matt O'Reilly against Ross County, the handball, which was checked and given, which, similar situation to what happened with Goldson, but wasn't checked nor given, let alone given. There was the game at Celtic Park a couple of weeks ago, and we scored 2 offside goals, and the club that we played has literally just slipped my head. We scored a couple of offside goals, and onside goals, sorry. We scored a couple of goals that were checked for offside when they were nowhere near offside, and they literally completed the checks in seconds. Very uncharacteristic of the SFA, by the way, because it feels like every time there is something checked on Celtic's behalf, it lasts minutes. But no, it felt like they were chancing, as if like, oh, hold on, they could be offside. There might be a chance we can chop these goals off for Celtic. And then they realised straight away when it was nowhere near, offside calls, they're like, alright, bugging it, we can't even justify checking this, and they got it overdone very quickly. I think that there has been too many situations where we have lacked clarification in what is actually happening, and that is where the problem is coming. I can accept decisions being made as long as I understand why the decision is being made. We also had that one a couple of weeks ago where Abada was offside after the defender had made a touch on the ball that apparently didn't make him onside, which I was unaware was the rule. It feels like the SFA are making the rules up as they go along, and it changes every week to suit whatever bad decision they're making in a game, and that's what's making it worse. That's what I'm trying to say. I would be able to accept all of these calls. I would be able to understand them a little bit better if they came out and they gave some clarification as to why they are making that decision. And it begs the question, do we need to change the way the games are refereed here? Do we have to offer something like we have in rugby where the referee has a microphone and announces why he's making a decision? Do we just need to have our referees mic'd up so that after the game we can hear what's happening? After the games are finished and when the 90 minutes is done and everybody is down the tunnel, we are hearing absolutely nothing from these referees. Nothing to suggest why they've made a decision, nothing to justify their actions, and it's leaving us as supporters in the dark as to what is actually happening and whether or not we're going to see it repeated again. And whether or not they actually feel like they're being supported by a video assistant system which seems to be offering nothing. And there's fans out there who are pretending that this is Celtic that are making this a problem. Let's not pretend that clubs have been robbed by VAR decisions and been baffled by them so far. Now, let's not pretend that's not happening, because it certainly is. I wanted to come on here and make a point earlier on, but Stevie from GigPod has done it the best for me, and I'm going to use his tweet to actually just say what I wanted to say, because he's worded it better than I ever could. It's a very good point. So shout out to Stevie. You'll recognise him, of course, from the 67 Hail streams as well. He said you could have the most sensible opinion on VAR up here, and you'll still find the majority of Scottish football fans will just go down the paranoid route, even despite their teams being wronged by it earlier in the season and just expecting it. And furthermore, I don't think officials are out to get us or any of that shite. I do believe they are hopeless, and they have been for years. And they have been seeing a ref as jolly due to having a career to fall back on. But of course, Twitter is the last place to really debate it. Now, this is the point that I wanted to ultimately come to. It's very easy to buy into conspiracies. It's very easy to look at decisions that are being made over the past few weeks or the past few months since the introduction to VAR and get a little bit carried away with it. And I'm not saying I'm paranoid of anything like that, but if you're trying to sit here and pretend that the VAR system is working well, then have a word with yourself, because it's not, and it's not just Celtic that's getting robbed of decisions. I think that Celtic going to speak to the SFA about VAR and the handling of it, and maybe to see if we can get some improvement on how it's being handled, is not just a positive for Celtic, it's a positive for Scottish football, and that's what we should look at. Rangers fans are pretending here in this situation that suddenly Goldson's handball is going to become an actual handball, and Celtic might get the chance to step up to Ibrox and win the game 3-2. That's not going to happen. But by Celtic going to speak to the SFA about VAR, it's going to improve the process, it's going to improve the system for everybody in this league, including Rangers. And it has to be addressed, it has to be spoken about. And quite frankly, I'm glad that somebody from Celtic, whether it be Dermot Desmond, Ian Bankier, Peter Lawwell, Michael Nicholson, I don't care who it is, somebody from Celtic going to speak about it is the best thing that can be done, because there has to be an improvement on what's happening. And that's just the honest fact. I was never an advocate for VAR in the first place. I didn't want it involved with Scottish football in the first place. I think that the cluelessness and the hopelessness and the just sheer incompetence of the referees in this country make it a system that's never going to work. But if we want it to work and we want it to get better, there has to be conversations going on. Decisions aren't consistent. There isn't an explanation to why decisions aren't consistent. And fans are being left in the dark to wonder what the rules of the game actually are. And when it gets to that point, you've lost the game. You've lost football as you know it. It doesn't become an enjoyable sport at that point. It becomes something you wonder if there's even a point to it. Someone has to step up and have this call and have this talk. Celtic seem to be doing so. I think, and I would say that everybody should be doing the same. Somebody from Rangers, somebody from Hearts, somebody from everywhere in the top 12 in this country should be speaking to the SFA. We should be coming together to decide how we can get this working and how we can make it better, because right now we're moving backwards when VAR is meant to be something that takes us forwards. It is counteracting, it is contradicting everything it was set out to do. And if Celtic have to be the ones that are labelled as paranoid for trying to fix that, then I am one paranoid bastard. Right, we'll call it there for today. There is a couple of other things to talk about. There was news about Giacomakis that broke earlier today. Don't know how much truth is in it. I think there's another couple of wee things in the background as well, but we'll cover it all as the week unfurls. We'll have a podcast as well to record this week, so don't worry. We will get everything covered. But there you go, Celtic going to speak to SFA hopefully about fixing this VAR up here. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I'm sure this will attract some very normal reaction from other fans in the comments. But ho hum. Like and subscribe. See y'all next time.